Here's the reason why narcissists ignore you after hurting you. Let us be honest, nothing feels more confusing than when someone wounds you deeply and instead of apologizing, owning it, or even acknowledging your pain, they go silent. They simply vanish. They ignore you like you did something wrong. That silence can feel louder than any insult they have ever thrown at you. And the honest truth is, it is not an accident. It is calculated. It is a tactic. And today I'm going to show you exactly why they do it, and more importantly, how you take back your power when it happens. Ignoring you is their way of dodging accountability. When a narcissist hurts you and then ignores you, it is not because they do not know what they have done. Deep down inside, they know. They know exactly what they said, what they did, and how much damage it caused. Ignoring you is not an accident. It is an escape route from having to face the truth. Accountability requires courage. It requires someone to look you in the eye and admit, I was wrong. But narcissists do not thrive in truth. They thrive in distortion. So instead of owning what they have done, they retreat into silence because silence protects them from having to deal with reality. This silence is not neutral. It is manipulative. It is a shield they hide behind to avoid consequences. By ignoring you, they can pretend nothing happened, rewrite the narrative in their own mind, and erase the evidence of their wrongdoing. And here is the twisted part. They want you to doubt yourself. They want you to question if you are overreacting, if maybe you imagine the whole thing. Because if you start doubting your reality, they never have to own theirs. Think about it. When you wait for someone to acknowledge your pain and all you get is silence, your brain starts spinning. You replay conversations, you search for reasons, you wonder if it is you. That is exactly what they want. Dodging accountability keeps them in power. If they do not respond, they never have to admit they crossed a line. They never have to face the consequences of their choices. They never have to step into responsibility. Ignoring you is their way of staying in control of the story. If they talk, they risk exposure. If they go silent, they can hide. That is why silence becomes their favorite strategy. It protects their fragile ego. But here is the reality. Their silence says more about them than it ever will about you. It screams, I do not have the strength to face what I have done. It reveals weakness, not strength. It reveals cowardice, not confidence. You need to see their silence for what it really is, an evasion tactic. Not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of their fear. They are afraid of responsibility, afraid of consequences, afraid of being truly seen. Every time they ignore you after causing pain, they are exposing their inability to grow. They are proving to you that accountability will never come. They are showing you that silence is the only apology they are capable of giving. When you understand this, you stop personalizing their silence. You stop asking, why will they not respond? And you start saying, of course they are silent. They cannot handle accountability. Dodging accountability is their survival mechanism. It is how they maintain the illusion that they are never wrong. But illusions always crack when you refuse to buy into them. So the next time they ignore you, remember this. It is not because you do not deserve a response. It is because they cannot give one. Silence is a weapon they use to control your emotions. Silence is not just an absence of words, it is a calculated weapon. When a narcissist ignores you after hurting you, they are using silence as a tool to keep you unsettled. They know the human mind hates uncertainty, and silence creates the ultimate uncertainty. You sit there wondering, are they mad at me? Do they hate me? Did I push too far? Should I reach out again? That mental chaos is exactly what they want. They want you spinning in your head, chasing clarity you will never get. This weapon works because it creates a vacuum, and human beings rush to fill a vacuum. When they go silent, you start writing the script for them. You start filling in the blanks with apologies, excuses, and explanations that let them off the hook. Their silence keeps you hooked emotionally. Instead of processing your own pain, you are fixated on their reaction. Instead of asking, why did they hurt me? You are asking, why won't they talk to me? That shift keeps you trapped in their game. Silence destabilizes you. It makes you question your value. It forces you into a place of seeking their attention just to restore emotional balance. That is control. That is power. They know exactly how long to withhold. They know that the longer they ignore you, the more desperate you will feel for their attention. And the moment you reach out, they win. You have just validated their strategy. Silence is not passive. It is an active strategy. It is them pulling strings without lifting a finger. It is them manipulating your emotions without saying a single word. And here is the brutal truth. Silence often hurts more than their insults. Because when someone insults you, at least they are acknowledging you. When they go silent, it feels like you do not even exist. That is psychological warfare. The longer they keep you waiting, the deeper the wound grows. That is why it feels unbearable at times, because silence is rejection wrapped in invisibility, and it is designed to make you crave their attention even more. Be you. Once you see silence as a weapon, you stop reacting to it. You stop giving it power. You start to recognize this is an absence. It is manipulation. And that recognition changes everything. Their silence only controls you if you are waiting for sound. When you stop waiting, the weapon fails. When you stop needing their response, their silence collapses into emptiness. Silence is their game, but you do not have to play. The moment you stop chasing noise, you start reclaiming your peace. Because silence used as a weapon is only effective against those who do not see it coming. Now you do. They want you chasing their validation instead of demanding respect. When a narcissist ignores you after hurting you, it is not random. It is a trap. The trap is designed to flip the script so you are no longer focused on how they disrespected you. Instead, you are focused on trying to get their attention back. And that is exactly where they want you chasing them instead of holding them accountable. They thrive on validation. It is their fuel. But here is the catch. They do not just want validation handed to them. They want to make you work for it. Ignoring you is how they set up the chase. They want you restless, uncomfortable, and desperate enough to break your own boundaries just to get a crumb of acknowledgement from them. This is not about love. It is about power. They are not sitting in silence because they are reflecting on their actions. They are silent because they want you to feel the absence so deeply that you start begging for the very person who hurt you. That is not a relationship. That is a trap. Think about the pattern. They hurt you, they ignore you, and eventually you cave. You send the text. You make the call. You try to fix what you did not break. And in that moment, they win. They have pulled you back into orbit around their ego every time you chase their valida. You are giving them permission to keep disrespecting you. They do not have to change because your focus is no longer on the disrespect. It is on getting them to acknowledge you again. That is how the cycle keeps repeating. And here is the twisted brilliance of their tactic. When you finally get their attention again, it feels like relief. It feels like love. It feels like everything is okay. But that relief is artificial. It only exists because they created the pain in the first place. They know exactly what they are doing. By withholding validation, they make their crumbs look like a feast. They turn their attention into a prize you feel lucky to win. But here is the truth. You should never feel lucky just to be acknowledged. Respect is not a prize. It is a basic standard. The longer you chase, the weaker your boundaries become. You start lowering the bar just to feel connected again. That is how you end up staying, stuck in relationships where you are constantly giving and rarely receiving. They do not want you demanding respect because respect requires them to change. It requires them to meet you where you are. And that is something they are unwilling to do. So instead, they flip the game. They condition you to crave their validation so much that you forget respect even exists. The silence is not about punishment. It is about training. They are training you to accept less and less while giving more and more. They are training you to believe that your worth is tied to how quickly you can get them to acknowledge you again. But here is what happens when you stop chasing. The entire illusion collapses. When you stop begging for attention and start demanding respect, you change the rules of the game. Suddenly, silence is not powerful anymore. It is pathetic. Their strategy only works if you are willing to play along. The moment you stop running after validation, you expose the emptiness of their game. You realize that someone who ignores you after hurting you is not strong, they are weak. They are terrified of facing someone who refuses to bend. They want you chasing. They want you begging. They want you lowering your standards. But the power shifts the moment you recognize you do not need their validation to prove your worth. Respect is the standard, and anything less is a deal breaker. Ignoring you feeds their illusion of superiority. When a narcissist ignores you after causing you pain, it is not just about avoiding you, it is about elevating themselves. In their mind, silence becomes a throne. It becomes a way of saying, I am above you. I do not owe you a response. I do not owe you anything. Ignoring you is how they convince themselves they are the one in control, sitting higher, untouchable. Their ego thrives on hierarchy. They cannot handle equality because equality means accountability. Equality means you are just as important, your voice matters, and your feelings deserve space. That terrifies them. So instead, they construct an illusion where they sit above you, where their silence becomes proof of their superiority. When they withdraw, they are trying to make you feel small. They want you to sit there questioning your worth, shrinking under the weight of their absence while they get to sit in the role of the untouchable one. This is not superiority, it is smoke and mirrors. But it feels real when you are on the receiving end of it. The longer they ignore, the more they believe the story they are telling themselves, that they do not need you, that they hold the power, that your world revolves around waiting for them. It is an ego boost disguised as indifference. And here is what is really happening. By ignoring you, they are avoiding responsibility, but they are also performing superiority for themselves. It is not just about making you feel lower. It is about convincing themselves they are higher. It is self-delusion masquerading as dominance. That silence is a stage and they are the star of their own performance. They are not ignoring you to heal or reflect. They are ignoring you to clap for themselves in their own head. Look how powerful I am. Look how much control I have. It is all ego theater. The illusion of superiority is fragile, though. It only exists as long as you believe it. If you accept their silence as a sign of their strength, they win. But the moment you see it for what it really is, cowardice, dressed up as power, the illusion shatters. Because let us be real, someone truly superior does not need to play games. Someone strong enough to own their choices does not need to weaponize silence. Someone confident enough in themselves does not need to ignore others to feel bigger. Superiority that relies on silence is counterfeit. It is like a cheap crown. They wear it proudly, but it crumbles the second you stop giving it weight. You do not rise above someone by ignoring them. You rise by taking responsibility, by being honest, by treating others with dignity. They cannot do that, so they fake superiority instead. And that is the paradox. The more they ignore you, the more they reveal their insecurity. They are terrified that if they engage, they will lose control, they will lose the image, they will lose the illusion. Silence protects the mask. But if you stop chasing, the mask falls off anyway. When you start to see their silence as a performance, you stop feeling smaller. You start realizing that ignoring you is not a show of strength. It is proof they are weak. Because truly superior people do not need to ignore others to feel important. The truth is, their superiority is an illusion you are invited to participate in. The moment you decline the invitation, the show ends. Their silence only works as long as you believe it elevates them. The second you stop, they are left exposed, just another person too scared to face the truth. So when they ignore you, do not picture them sitting on a throne. Picture them hiding in a corner, clutching a fake crown, terrified of being exposed. Because that is the reality. Ignoring you is not power. It is panic. And the moment you see that, you strip their silence of its magic. You take back your place on equal ground, not by demanding their attention, but by refusing to bow to their illusion. The real power begins when you stop needing their response. The most dangerous thing you can do to a narcissist is not yelling at them. It is not exposing them. It is not even walking away. The most dangerous thing you can do is stop needing their reaction. That is the moment their entire strategy collapses. Because every game they play, every silence they weaponize, every manipulation they attempt, it all depends on you waiting for them to respond. Their power lives in your anticipation. As long as you are checking your phone, rereading conversations, or imagining how they will react, you are still playing their game. But the moment you decide, I do not need their response to move forward, you have just ripped the entire foundation out from under them. This is where the shift happens because you have probably spent so much time trying to understand them, trying to fix things, trying to make them see what they have done. That is how they keep you tethered by making you believe closure comes from them. But closure is not something they will ever give. Closure is something you create when you decide their silence is not your prison. Think about it. Why do they ignore you? To make you chase. Why do they stay silent? To make you beg. Why do they withhold? To make you feel powerless. But the second you stop azing, begging, or waiting, the silence flips. Suddenly, it is not your problem anymore. It is theirs. When you stop needing their response, you reclaim your time, you reclaim your energy, you stop pacing around your life waiting for someone who is not worth your wait. You start investing that energy back into yourself. And that is when your growth takes off. It feels unnatural at first because you are conditioned to equate silence with rejection. But the truth is, silence is liberation when you stop needing it to change. Their silence no longer means you are unworthy. It simply means you have been given the gift of space, the space to heal, to rebuild, to refocus. You know what really shakes a narcissist? It is not when you scream back at them. It is when you do not react at all. It is when their silence meets your indifference, because their entire identity is built on being able to provoke you. When you stop needing their response, they lose the mirror that reflects their power. You stop becoming a puppet in their play. You stop dancing to the rhythm of their silence. Instead, you start moving to your own beat. That is freedom. That is where real strength is born. Not in pulling a response out of them, but in realizing you do not need one to live fully. And here is the deeper truth. Every time you wait for their response, you delay your own healing. You delay your own progress. You put your life on hold for someone who has already shown you they are incapable of giving you what you deserve. The day you stop waiting is the day your healing accelerates. This is why they hate your independence. Because when you no longer need their validation, their attention, or their reaction, you break the invisible chain. They cannot pull you back in. They cannot lure you with silence. They cannot bait you with absence. You become untouchable. Power begins when you redirect your energy. Instead of chasing their response, you pour that effort into building yourself. You learn, you grow, you push forward. You start writing new chapters in your life where their silence has no role, no relevance, no weight. And let us be clear, not needing their response does not mean you stop feeling hurt. It means you stop waiting for them to fix the hurt. It means you recognize they are not capable of healing what they broke. That healing is yours to create, yours to own, yours to complete. Imagine the strength you build when you can look at someone who once had the power to destroy you and think, your silence does not control me anymore. That is the kind of power they cannot stand. That is the kind of strength that makes them unravel. The narcissist's biggest fear is not your anger. It is your indifference. Anger means you are still invested. Indifference means you have moved on. Indifference means you have stopped needing them. And when you stop needing them, they lose everything. So the real power is not found in their response. It is found in your ability to stop waiting for one. It is found in the decision to close the chapter without their permission, to heal without their help, to rise without their acknowledgement. That is how you win, not by getting them to finally respond, but by realizing you never needed them to begin with. Their silence was never power. Your decision to stop waiting is the power. The truth is, narcissists ignore you after hurting you, not because you are unworthy, but because they are terrified of accountability. They weaponize silence, not strength. They want you restless, second-guessing yourself, chasing crumbs of validation while they sit on a fake throne of superiority. But here is the reality. They only win if you keep playing the game. Their silence is not power. It is manipulation. It is an illusion meant to make you believe you are less so they can feel like more. The moment you see it for what it is, everything changes. The moment you stop needing their response, you shatter the entire strategy. You stop begging for closure, and instead you create your own. You stop lowering your standards, and instead you demand respect. You stop waiting on someone incapable of giving you what you deserve, and instead you give it to yourself. That is where your freedom begins. That is where your strength comes alive. Because the ultimate victory is not getting them to respond. It is realizing you never needed their words to define your worth in the first place.